Alright, hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Listography. Today we're talking about Weezer, perhaps one of the most frustrating bands in history to be a fan of. I personally got their debut album, the Blue Album, as a gift for my 11th birthday. And I've pretty much been listening to them for better or worse ever since. I did a version of this video a couple of months ago, and about an hour after I recorded it, Weezer announced that they would be putting out the Black Album, so I decided to scrap the episode and wait for its release and redo it so that my video wasn't out of date almost immediately after posting it. And then yesterday, Anthony Fantano of The Needle Drop posted his Weezer Best to Worst list. So I decided this would be a good time to revisit the list, do it partially in response to his video, but also because I planned on doing this video anyways. I will say that I agree with most of what Fantano said in his video. His analysis of most of the records is spot on. However, there are a couple pretty noticeable exceptions to that, a couple albums that we vary opinions on, and also slight differences in how we rank things. So let's get into it. 13 albums in all. At number 13, I have the album from 2009, Ratitude. This is easily their worst record. Even if they're trying to be tongue-in-cheek, it's not working. For that to work, you have to let people in on the joke, and they keep way too straight of a face on this record. There's really no redeeming qualities for this record, no good tracks at all. I would avoid this record at all costs. At number 12 is the record that Anthony Fantano had as his worst. It's my second worst, the album Pacific Daydream from 2017. Weezer are the ultimate self-sabotagers. After a few albums in a row of improved quality and returning to the good graces of rock critics, they follow the White Album, which was their best album in years, with this absolute turd of a record. It's a real slap to the face of their fans. Leads you to believe that they either have no quality control whatsoever, or that when they are good, it's by total accident. One of the places where I really disagree with Anthony Fantano's assessment of their discography is on this record that I have at number 11. It's the Teal album. Came out this year, just before the Black Album came out. So he kind of enjoys this record. I think it's pretty bad. I hate the sound of this thing. It sounds like it was recorded and mixed on an iPad. I know it's just meant to be a fun covers record and shouldn't be taken too seriously, but it commits just about every sin that a covers record can. Chief among them is selecting songs that are so unexpected that they immediately play as novelty songs. The songs on this record either fall into that category, or they're so uninspired and faithful to the originals that they might as well not exist at all. At number 10, I have the record Hurley. This record isn't terrible, and it has some decent hooks and big guitars, but at the end of the day, it still doesn't feel like Weezer is trying all that hard. It just kind of seems like they threw together a power pop record as fast as they could and put it out as Damage Control from the backlash from Ratitude. There's really not that much of substance here. At number 9, I have their self-titled Red album from 2008. This is a bit of a baffling record. It's super weird and all over the place, and that is both one of its strengths and its weaknesses. This is also the record that the other members sing on, which I don't really mind. It's not a great record, but at least it sounds like they're trying. They're taking some chances and they're having fun doing it. At number 8, I have the 2014 album Everything Will Be Alright in the End. Most of my distaste for this album comes from the way it was promoted as a big return to form, as some sort of big comeback to the days of the Blue Album. But anyone who thinks this record is anywhere close to the first two Weezer albums is delusional. Rivers is still using his simple, idiotic rhyme schemes that have plagued every post-Pinkerton Weezer album, and the production is still way too clean and polished. Still, this record is way more tuneful than anything they have done in a long time. So for that, it lands kind of in the middle of the pack. At number 7, I have their newest record, this year's Black album. This is another hit and miss record. It's really the only time they've ever used modern sounding production with any degree of success, though. And it shows that they might actually be able to evolve their sound successfully without always having to chase the sounds of their past. Granted, there are definitely some clunkers in the bunch, a few really terrible songs, but overall, I did enjoy this record. At number 6, I have the album Make Believe from 2005. This is probably where I differ the most from other critics. A lot of people really, really don't like this record. I think Make Believe is actually their most underrated record. Sure, some of the singles from this record felt like they were pandering to the masses a bit, but most of the album cuts are pretty good. I would guess that if I were to make a top 10 post-Pinkerton Weezer song list, at least 3 or 4 cuts from this album would make that list. Probably 1 or 2 of them would be in the top 5. This is such a pity. The Damage in Your Heart, Pardon Me, and Freak Me Out, I think, are some actually pretty great Weezer songs. At number 5, I have their self-titled White album from 2016. This is yet another album that was billed as a return to form. This one comes a little closer to delivering on that promise. Most of the songs on this record are actually really good power pop songs. Still, none of it feels that personal or heartfelt, but if all you're looking for is big guitars and catchy melodies, you'll be pleased with this record. So overall, it's decent. At number 4, I have their self-titled Green album from 2001. I probably only like this album as much as I do because I got it when it came out and I listened to it a lot back in the day. The songs are very formulaic, though, in their structures, and literally every guitar solo on this record plays exactly the vocal melody. Still, there are a lot of really catchy songs on this record, and there's an energy to it that's missing from just about everything that followed it. With one exception, that is the album that came immediately after it, and that is Maladroit. This is by far my favorite post-Pinkerton Weezer album. They would never again reach the emotional heights of songs like Death and Destruction or Slave, nor would they ever again have the energy of tracks like Dope Nose, Take Control, and Fall Together, or the musical adventurousness of Burnt Jam, with maybe the exception of the Red album, which is pretty bizarre. But you get the idea. There's a lot here that is of a quality that they would never again reach. I think the Green album, the White album, and Make Believe are all decent records, but this is the last Weezer album that I would say is a really good record. At number 2, I have the Blue album. It's one of the best records of the 90s, also one of the best debut records of all time, just full of classic tracks, great hooks, great songwriting, and I certainly would not fault anyone for saying this is their best record. There's certainly an argument to be made for that. And at number 1, I have Pinkerton, the sophomore album from 1996. This is just a much darker version of the Blue album. It's lyrically way more introspective and interesting. I think it sort of lets you into Rivers' head more than any other Weezer record. And for that, it feels more significant to me than the Blue album. I think the songs are still really catchy and really full of hooks, and you can't say enough for what Matt Sharp brought to the band in the time that he was with them. I think he brings a personality with his background vocals and his bass playing that has been missing sorely ever since. So that's my Weezer listography. I hope you liked the video. If you did, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already, and most importantly, leave a comment below. I would love to hear what your thoughts on Weezer are. Thanks, guys.